Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that makes this X's for Podcast, your one and only show where I keep the microphone squarely in front of my face. So excited to be here. We're talking comics. We got a lot of comics to talk about today. We're doing some stuff that's just to kind of catch up on some things that we're a little behind on. And then we're going full force on some new titles. Really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We're not behind on anything. We agreed when we started to do this that we weren't always going to cover everything.
This is true.
And because with the X books, one of the reasons we wanted to change up our format is because there would be weeks where 7 really relevant X books would come out. And we were trying to figure out how to talk about all 7 of them. And like even this week, X-Force and X-Men both came out. So like if we were going to do our 1-in-1 thing already, we can't do that. We got two big ones. So I love having like little catch-up dates and being able to talk about a few of these at once in kind of a little more of a shorter style, largely because as much as we can figure out a way to talk about any X book for as many hours as we will be allowed to, they don't always warrant it.
Well, and like I was thinking about the prick that used to run this show. He was nuts, and he would make us talk about every X-Men title, every Marvel book, and then would still run bonus feeds other days of the week covering old titles. That guy couldn't handle it anymore, and he snapped. And I've taken over the show. I'm kidding. They're all me. But the joke I'm going for here is that like it actually is maddening if you try and cover everything. It will eventually drive you nuts. And
yeah, and even if you love the books, it makes it a lot easier to kind of inundate yourself with noticing a bunch of the negatives. And in a period where I know we don't love all of the books, I think we lucked out on the decision because we were making it before From the Ashes started, but I think it's appropriate.
And I want to say real quick before we go a step further, I yesterday did something I never do. I decided to go chase down merchandise. Now I don't do this anymore.
Yes.
I used to like hot boy wink at people at conventions and like get stuff, and now I do it legitimately after work and I go out and I buy the fucking thing. But so I really did go see the Batman yesterday, and I did in fact get the goddamn bat signal popcorn bucket. And I don't want to turn. Okay, hold on, wait. I might have
take all your time, maneuver however you have to. Let's do this.
I might have bought 2, and so but wait.
But here's my real question, Nico. I didn't ask you this yesterday. I'm sort of ashamed of myself. Did you get popcorn?
Yeah, of course. You got the popcorn with it, but I didn't let them put it in there, and I asked them to serve it to me in a... so what I said was, can you please serve it to me in a popcorn bucket that you have shrink wrapped in plastic, because I do not eat popcorn, but my husband does. And... so I made sure the popcorn came home. There's also a matching cup that has every Batmobile from every live action Bat project ever. And so that, of course, went to hot older boyfriend who needed it, the car junkie that he is. But so I saw the Batman yesterday in a special re-release. And I just want to put out there, number one, because we're going to get into a lot of cool stuff about comics and movies coming together. This movie was 2 hours and 56 minutes. Never again. Okay, so like, I literally have props. This is my favorite film of all time. I don't know if you guys understand, but this insane movie is, I think, 4 hours in this edition, 3 hours and 45 minutes. They get long, and so you hit a point where like diminishing returns. The Batman, I actually thought the biggest problem was Michael Giacchino's score felt particularly under-inspired. As a guy who
You really thought that was the biggest problem with the Batman?
Yeah, Michael Giacchino is like one of my heroes, and so the fact that the score was a really redundant series of takes on Ave Maria in like alternate keys, so you got like a mixolydian, you got a minor key, just kind of flat for me there. I thought
that was the biggest problem with the Batman.
Like functionally, like because it was just fine. I mean, it was just fine. Like there was like what should be the biggest problem with this movie? Like what should be? I'm happy to take to consideration and let you know, but like, oh no, the ramp chase, the ramp that ends the chase sequence kind of ruined it for me.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I thought that they couldn't get any more joyless than the Nolan ones. Nope, Matt Reeves did it.
Okay, but to that I will say, and I said this to you yesterday privately. I said to you, I am the goddamn Batman. No, so what I said to you was that the original quadrilogy is a Batman series.
Yes, yeah,
It shows 4 different kinds of Batman.
Yeah.
Then the next, the Nolan series is a Bruce Wayne trilogy that shows 3 shades of Bruce Wayne. Then the fact that Ben Affleck's Batman is sort of absent from his own films in a way.
Yeah, he's there to be a DC universe. Yeah.
Exactly. And then this one was just a Gotham movie.
So I love that take, except then that makes the movie worse because Gotham's not that cool in this one. Gotham is cooler in Gotham. Gotham is cooler in the Burtons.
Well, hold on. I want to say Gotham was cool here. Gotham was cool here. But like, just like, because I've also watched Southland, so I've seen Ben McKenzie. I know cities, and I'm cool, and I just want to say that, like, you are right, it is joyless, but let me say everybody should go watch it because Catwoman was my favorite live action Catwoman ever. The Penguin, as Kevo put, he lived in New York. The Penguin was tremendous. Colin Farrell played the last time I saw the Penguin portrayed this well on film, it was Ally McBeal season 1. You're doing it, baby. That's the Penguin. And so I really want to say that the Tim Sale accurate Carmine Falcone made my life. Anybody who knows me knows that I think the greatest DC story ever told is The Long Halloween. And so thank you for letting me talk about this stupid movie for 5 minutes. Once again, everybody, go find an AMC and trick them into selling you one of these.
I mean, I feel like this was our year for popcorn buckets, America. We all got that Dune fleshlight popcorn bucket, that Wolverine fleshlight popcorn bucket. I'm sure you can find some way to stick something into the Bat Signal popcorn bucket. Go for it, kids. I believe in you.
But so it's been a big minute for movies for us too, though.
Yeah, we've been moving and shaking the movies.
So a couple of weeks ago, I went on a date and I saw Long Legs. Date movie. But that's very me. I love neon. That's like, you know, my vibe. Really liked it. Kind of got me back into loving movies in theaters for a minute. And now I've seen Deadpool and Wolverine, Alien Romulus, Long Legs, The Crow, which, fuck, you want to talk about comic book movie adaptations? Fuck, that one was bad. I saw something. Didn't I just see something? Oh, Batman, right. And so I've seen a bunch of movies in a minute, and I will say that my favorite experience of the lot was Romulus.
Yeah, I think that's true. It was for me too. We talked about this during our Romulus episode, but I enjoyed watching Romulus in theaters more than Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine obviously had a lot for me. I lived through all the movies they referenced. I lived through all the comics they referenced. I love seeing the depictions of the characters. I did have a lot of fun, but nothing gave me the Nicole Kidman heartbreak feels good in a place like this experience the way sitting through Romulus did. Kevo put it best. Like I would have loved Deadpool and Wolverine just as much at home, chilling on the sofa. and still would have thought it was as great a movie and as great an experience. Romulus in theaters, moviegoers movie, all the way, just a total blast.
Well, no, as you are my cinematique, you are my my big bro and movie man. So I look to you for some answers on this stuff, and something that I can think of really clearly was there was a love of hyper realistic and also hyper saturated color tones that fit into natural settings for a while. And something I noticed with the Batman, which was 2022, certainly not saying that that's necessarily in the same category, but something that all of the other movies that we're talking about have in common, especially Romulus, is this garish love of color and sound saturation that I think, as Kevo said, maybe don't translate as well at home. And like, I saw the Batman in Dolby Surround Digital. Like, I went to like one of those theaters where everything you do was shaking, and it was great actually. But all I could think is how much I missed out not seeing Romulus like that, because the advertisement for Deadpool and Wolverine beforehand, you could hear the difference. And I'm sure some of it is souped up and some of it's enhanced, but like, I really wonder, as somebody who loves the art of filmmaking, when you see a film-made comic book movie as opposed to a movie that has comic book stuff, like, how do you feel about that level of like surrender? That, because we're going to talk about how Aliens vs Avengers really captured that Romulus energy, but talk to me about that a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned that. I did see Romulus in the ultimate floor shaking biggest screen that wasn't
really?
in IMAX. Yeah, it just
that's so cool.
It worked out because it was the 11 o'clock showing, and I wanted to get in as early as humanly possible. So it was a great theater experience. I do think it can matter. I wish it mattered more to Marvel. I wish we were in I kind of felt like we were in the experimental phase, and what happened was some of the experiments didn't make as much money, and so were considered a failure. But they were not failures. They were great. They just weren't lowest common denominator, the Avengers. But the Avengers films could be seat shakinger. The action is amazing. No Marvel movie has a good score, and I don't know why we're still doing this. It annoys me so much. No Marvel movie has a bad score. No Marvel movie has a remarkable score.
Black Panther.
Good refutation. Yeah.
And like,
great.
but I mean, like, I do need to say like that obviously Black Panther. Obviously Black Panther. And then like, because you're right, there is such a focus on soundtrack.
There's a dearth of quality score throughout this franchise that does so many things right. Bear McCreary exists. Christoph Gold still is doing amazing soundtracks.
I'm out here.
Call him right now. I would still say, like, Endgame and Infinity War, I don't think for me were as you gotta be in the theater as Romulus. And I just think it takes a lot to give that experience. And it takes a real willingness to shift the focus away from storytelling, meaning plot, meaning literally telling you this is the story of about how, and just like going through the plot beats and doing maybe a great job telling you a story, but like some of the story of Alien Romulus is just, this room is terrifying as fuck. Do we leave or stay in the room? That's
you gotta let me know. Sorry.
And so the story is the infrasound undercurrent of machines working in a hollow space, of organic matter kind of undulating around, of people trying to tiptoe, and all of that. Really big sound moments, really big camera moments, lighting moments, color story moments. How you decide to tell all that stuff really can engross the viewer, and that's just like never something we're doing in a Marvel film, in any comic book film. And to take it to what we're talking about today, I don't think that is what Hickman does with his work a lot of the time, but I do think what Hickman does is really let you inhabit a panel and a page regardless of how much insane amount of story and data he's going to give you.
I love that take on it, because something that I was noticing very much is I'm a very emotional artist. Like when I do anything, like I sing too hard. Like, and that's not like I'm not like I sing too hard. Sorry, no. Like everything comes out a little bit tortured. Oh my God, Kevo, please get on camera for a second, because if you've ever been a fan of watching American Idol outtakes and bloopers, there is that gentleman who sings literally this song. He literally sings. Kiss
Oh
from a
God,
Rose.
he's so sharp.
And-
yeah.
And he is, and like, one of the things that I really love is that Mary J. Blige, just bringing the real, it's just absolutely like, man, that was tortured. And like, it's something that I think is so frequently missed, that art winds up being torturous instead of being capable of expressing powerful darkness. And I feel like, I'm making a joke that I can be a torturous singer at times, but I think John Hickman can be a torturous storyteller to where he strangles the emotion out of things. And Kevo, one of the reasons I asked you to pop in is, for me, that's the difference in Doctor Who showrunners in a lot of ways. I do understand that a lot of people think that Stephen Moffat is also a very emotional writer because he hits a lot of emotional beats for people. But for me, I just feel like he sometimes beats them to death. And there's no emotion as much as there is a carefully crafted cerebrality. And that's John Hickman for me. He's not going for the family reunion moment. He's going for the, oh, finally, I understand the big science moment.
Yeah. I could see that sort of comparison. Moffat kind of cared more about doing something crazy, like a baby conceived in the time vortex created this thing, without actually, like, we love and care about the characters, but I feel like Russell T. Davies probably would have put a lot more emotional investment in a story like that. I don't think that holds up against Martha and everything that she went through with her family the same way. I see what you mean.
Thank you so much for getting that. I really appreciate you both being here and being there. And TK, one of the things that I thought so much of, you are such an amazing creature. You famously go on whatever journey I ask you to go on. You're going to go on a real weird 0-hour journey in a minute. That's real weird. But with Alien, something that I mentioned is how into these comics I am. And Hickman literally captures the atmosphere of these comics perfectly in terms of the lack of emotion. But the question I have for you is, do you feel that a guy like Hickman is sort of like cock-wagging like a guy like Ridley Scott does? When Scott came back and did Prometheus in response to Alien, sidestepping the values of Aliens, Alien 3, Resurrection, and purposefully being diminutive of AVP and AVPR, though of note, James Cameron was a big fan of AVP, so suck it. Ridley disavowed a lot of the other parts of canon he didn't care for and went full space jockey. How did you feel about this this APOC back out of nowhere to the age of Krakoa with the swords, with the design? Like, all I could think is, I really want to know if TK is getting off on how much that must have bothered Brevoort.
Yes, the answer is correct. And everybody, I was going to mention it. I'm glad we brought the name up, because I don't have a Brevoort rant today, because I didn't get an article in my Google Discover or on Twitter or anywhere else where Brevoort just says something staggeringly offensive that I have to then get on this show and refute. So I'm super pleased about that, but I'm glad we still can stick it to him a little bit. Yeah, exactly as you said. I was very much having a moment, seeing. So my first thought was, is Hickman overkill for this? And immediately my thought was no, because even Percy maybe could not have gotten me excited about this, and maybe did not get me excited about previous Alien books.
What was
Even
it, like Weapon X vs. Predator?
Something like that. Even though you have now told me that Percy has good, which I believe I fully, but like there's a difference between, like, because a lot of stuff that I read and love is because I read it for you, but I'm not excited going into it. It's not against my will, but I'm not like hyped for it. It's the work. It's the thing we're doing. And then I'll read it and I'll love it, and then I'll be excited, and that's a thing. But like, it has to win me over. This, I was a little bit excited because it felt like, I mean, these are two greats right here. This, what it says to me is like Marvel cared enough,
yes,
to spend the money, because this could have been a fantastic book with a less expensive writer and a less expensive artist. I'm not going to name names because that's going to denigrate somebody. And there are people that I think could have written an amazing Aliens versus Avengers story that I know do not command the price of a Hickman, and artists who don't command the price of Ribic. And I think I could have loved those people's stories, but the fact that I saw these names attached to this really said to me, Marvel wanted to do something, like give into it a little bit, because they actually did want to do something. And right off the bat, we're just in another world, and of course we are, because we probably can't have xenomorphs in 616. I think we maybe that's not reasonable to think that that's a thing. So immediately, no, you don't think so?
You have made an argument
today. I don't think we can, but anyway, I think we could, but continue.
I would like to propose what I'm referring to as the greater Marvelverse.
Yeah.
And it is a greater look at the macrocosmic understanding of the Marvel universe, in which your pitch, that since one of the reasons that, Buffy is over at Boom these days is, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but before Marvel bought Disney, they'd purchased CrossGen, they'd purchased Boom. I think it's actually a minority stake of 30% in Boom, actually. But like, you've made a pitch for something that I think would be in the exact same vein as, for me, the Xenomorphs fitting in as Brood Nemesis.
I made the pitch for the Xenomorphs as Brood Nemesis.
No, you made an equal pitch using Buffy.
Oh, I mean, I do want Buffy in the Marvel universe, but I mean, Nico, you explained to me why that's not possible.
But that's why I'm saying the greater Marvelverse, a bigger picture multiverse that allows for garbage like this. Otherwise, how can Batman fuck with Scooby-Doo?
Well, but your explanation was not canon; it was business.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I would love. DC is constantly trying to figure out how its main continuity and all the other stuff it wants to tell that can't be main continuity fits together. And how when they hire Mike Allred to tell one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, how in the world can this now ever fit into Batman's background when it's nothing? But someday somebody's going to want to do that, and they're going to have to do another Crisis somewhere that somehow integrates Batman Dark Age into being part of Bruce Wayne's story. But right now, it's not. Right now, Chip Zdarsky's Batman, the character, has nothing to do with Batman Dark Age, and their lives are entirely separate. And DC seems to constantly be trying to negotiate that. Marvel has a very clear thing where Maker and Reed Richards are just two parallel tracks, two men in two different universes who are Reed Richards, and they can cross over into each other's universes and talk and discuss things. But we understand, I think, the Marvel multiverse very clearly, but a thing happens where when the Xenomorphs show up, that's like a third level where it's like that can't even interact with the multiverse of the Reeds knowing each other, because if so, then I need Secret Wars 2, and I need Weyland-Yutani, the Xenomorphs, and the Engineers to be also fighting the Beyonders, or like I need a Beyonder Xenomorph, like, and I don't think we can ever have that. I think that's not reasonable to expect, and I don't think it's something Marvel would ever do, but then it does sort of unlock this question of what's the universe designation of this story that I just read today, Aliens versus Avengers. Will it ever matter in a larger context? Can it? Should it? And then we do get into questions like, okay, with the enormous stake that you have in,
well, thank you.
With the enormous stake that Disney has now in ownership of Buffy, is Buffy Scott Summers' cousin somewhere?
I would literally refuse to think anything else.
Right. But then at the same time, my biggest one, I was pitching this in our Discord just yesterday. Disney owns ABC. Disney owns Marvel. Is Meredith Grey Jean Grey's cousin? Does Meredith Grey have the Medical Phoenix Force? I believe so.
Well, I want to point out, that's why Meredith Grey named all of her children after famous doctors. She named the youngest Dr. Ellis, like her mother, Dr. Ellis Grey. The middle child, Dr. Bailey, like Dr. Bailey from the show Miranda Bailey. And then Zola, like Dr. Zola, Arnim Zola.
Arnim Zola.
In his tummy.
Which we did talk about.
What would you do without me serving you big little brother energy all day?
I do have questions. I just, this does unlock a third level of fun. I love the 616 universe. At the next level, I love when we go multiversal. And at the last level, I love when we go nonsense multiversal, can't ever be relevant, has to entirely be self-contained, but also can contain anything from Marvel that they want. This is really an Alien universe that has access to Marvel rather than a Marvel universe that has access to Alien.
I think that has to be correct, in part because of the way I almost want to say they misbehave with the pacing. Like, I thought
this is not an Alien. This is not Alien pacing.
No, it's Hickman reflecting on storytelling choices, and like, I did not love Dark Age by Tom Taylor. I did not love I kind of didn't love some of Hickman's God's work, honestly. I tried reading it. You make everything so available to me. You share your books with me. It makes it so easy for me to read. And I'm always so grateful because sometimes I say after issue 4, I'm done buying it. And then how am I going to catch up? Right. And so, you read Gods. You were really positive on it. I'm catching up on all these books. And I
was not really positive on Gods.
You were positive on the fact that it should be physically read if I want to pretend to be a comic academic. And that is what you were positive on, sir. And my thought on it is that Hickman is someone whose modus operandi is Vogue. There are artists who come in and out of Vogue all the time, and you don't really refer to somebody who only ever had one heyday as, oh, they were in Vogue then. Like, that's not really how we use that. We think about people who come in and out of this spotlight. Hickman is somebody who is going to come in and out of the spotlight for the rest of his life, and I didn't realize it so much, but like, I don't know. I think you could probably say that John Hickman is the Bill Lawrence of comic books.
Wow, I really accept that.
Whether it's Spin City, Scrubs, or it's Ted Lasso, you just don't realize that he has been making all your favorites your whole life. Or you know what? Maybe a fairer comparison would be to bring up Ally McBeal one more time, because we're an X-Men podcast. That's, I guess, what we do. Because David E. Kelly with things like Picket Fences versus La Law, or if you're a Golden Girls fan, or if you want to look at his later work, I think it was called Big Sky. on ABC that was successful for a minute or something like that, and it was one of the most well-regarded shows for a couple of seasons there. And that's somebody who's had 40 years of experience. Hickman really at this point has like 30 years in the comic industry of telling high-profile, big idea stories. I kind of feel like he's at the point where he was bound to be retired to these sorts of stories anyway. So the fact that he's telling them while he's telling the big top tier stories in pages of like books like Ultimate Spider-Man, I think that's pretty cool.
I agree. I think I would never want to describe this as a punishment or anything bad, but it's an interesting choice given that this guy was the IP kingmaker.
That's what a great kingmaker. I really, really love that term.
I mean, I really think they had one chance to stick the landing with raising the X-Men's profile again after Marvel themselves buried it in the dirt because Fox owned the rights. They got them back and they had one chance. And I will always say I think Krakoa could have gone on much longer. I think it was fantastic. I would not have changed things so drastically. Regardless of any of that, Hickman, from when he started until he left at the end of Inferno, did exactly that. He raised the profile. Nobody was not talking about the X-Men in comics world. It was getting people hyped again who, a generation kind of grew up not having the same affinity for the X-Men. And this was a way to get those people to kind of be aware of how hot this property is. He's done this before with other things. And so given that Aliens can never be, or maybe, I shouldn't say can never, but given that it doesn't feel likely that Aliens is going to integrate into the greater Marvel universe, and they're not going to probably replace the Brood or become another, force like the Kree and the Shi'ar.
No one's getting Angela anytime soon.
Thank you. Perfect example. Given that I don't think that's going to happen, it is weird to see Hickman here. But maybe the king making is in, okay, this movie's coming out. We have the chance to print a book that should make us a bunch of money. But it can't be trash. It's actually got to be a good book, or the project will fail. Put on one of our greats, give us a great artist. And even though this is essentially kind of tie-in synergy schlock, it can still actually be really great. And I do think the assignment was understood and fulfilled.
And I think one of the problems I ultimately have with these sort of tie-ins is that they never feel I don't know. I wanted to say severe, but I also wanted to say real. There's something about the fact that these books never really have a big concept to them. They're always just sort of like, oh, what if? But this book takes the time to consider what force in the Marvel Universe might pull the Xenomorphs in. And then it takes the time to consider which heroes might have the ability to survive. It doesn't surprise me that a symbiote Miles Morales alongside Bruce Banner and Carol would survive this long.
I want to step back. It was pretty hot to say that they all would have died. Because a very tie-in, again, schlocky, like, want to have some fun. Here's
like
how
Samantha Fox want to have some fun. Obviously, cousin of Steve Fox.
Thank you. Here's how Captain America would punch a xenomorph. And I know we're going to get Captain America later, but, the idea that all of your favorites are punching xenomorphs, like characters that just, I'm sorry, Pixie from the X-Men is just going to get absolutely fucking killed by a xenomorph.
Yeah, hold on. I want to just point out, Buffy seasons 1 through 3, Cordelia, grand total staking of vampires, 1. Yeah. Seasons 1 through 4 of Angel, because that bitch didn't make it to 5. Grand total staking of vampires, the universe.
Yeah. So you know, I like that initially, just to really say, like, we take this seriously. This is actually, what if this happened? You know, what if the actual, because that's the thing, that's another cool thing that I personally, because I have not had as much alien media as you have, I have never seen the full deployment on a planet to destroy the planet.
Really? Is that not in any of the films?
It's definitely not in any of the, well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
video games. Okay, weird. I guess
Yeah.
I have played like every Alien video game ever. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird
So
realization about myself.
I have had it described to me like the perfect killing machine. If we throw it on a planet, the planet's destroyed. Makes total sense to me, but there is a difference seeing it. And so big smart swing. It's what's supposed to happen. It's what they're built for. It's not remarkable to us except for the fact that it's happening on the planet where we believe that never happens because Galactus didn't do it. So awesome. Then yeah, if you're gonna give me those stakes, if you're gonna say like this is what's going on here, the only mutant that's gonna stay is Apocalypse. We know Wolverine's showing up. Fuck off.
I just really want to see Avengers Twilight versus Avengers.
Well, thank you
Alien?
for bringing it up, because the thing that this reminded me most of was Avengers Twilight.
Like,
yes,
almost like maybe Hickman at one point was attached to this and overdeveloped. Because remember, there was that thing where somebody who developed Twilight walked away from the project.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe at one point Tom Taylor was attached and that became Dark Age. At one point, Hickman was attached and that became this. Like, I wonder.
Yeah. Very, very curious, but it really did remind me, and not just because all the characters are aged, but because it's this really select crew that the author seems to be saying these are the only people that could have shown up, could have been here and could have done that. You know, Fantastic Four all gone, so many Avengers gone.
How did Valeria outlast Cloak? I'm not trying to be like weird, but on a scale of 1 to Dark Force energy, fuck off.
But this is an interesting ragtag crew, and I can see how these are the ones that survived, and it was for a book that's called Aliens Vs Avengers. You know, we're not getting Thor, Cap. What's that?
We got a lot of Shi'ar.
We did get a lot of Shi'ar, but then it turned out it wasn't really the Shi'ar.
I know.
So anyway, I don't know. This very, very interesting. Like I said, I've not Predator versus Wolverine. I didn't buy it. A lot of this stuff, I was not excited from the get-go. I might have enjoyed it if I read it, but like this, I was excited just at the proposition, and continuing to read it, I was really blown away all the time.
I might have given it a B+.
Yeah.
Now, are you also a B+?
I think that's about a B+, yeah.
I do want to just point out that there have been a number of amazing Alien runs the last couple of years at Marvel, starting with 2021's Alien first volume at Marvel. This was written by Green Lantern War Journal scribe Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Salvador Larroca, who of course draws everyone like an underwear model, but it doesn't always service the story when these xenomorphs are supposed to be sexy because they're threatening, not because they are attacking somebody who looks like he could be Patty's next billboard model. This 12-issue run is a lot of fun. It ultimately culminates at the end of 12 issues plus an annual and an Alien special by Ben Percy, which is super great. The next volume is just Alien Volume 2 from 2022, also by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Julius Ota. No offense to Salvador Larroca, who drew my favorite issues of Extreme X-Men and a number of the most beautiful issues of Chris Claremont's later career, but he sometimes really does offer too beautiful a landscape to really portray horror and fear. So I would recommend, if you are looking for something, I would start at the second real volume of Alien. Now that is known as Alien Icarus. This came out August 2022 to 2023. If you are an international reader, it might be listed as Alien Volume 1, 13 through 18. So just keep an eye out depending on where you're watching this video. If you are still interested after that, I cannot say enough wonderful things about the work of Declan Shalvey at Marvel over the years for a number of different positions, whether it's coloring, writing, or more. What an incredible genius of art and storytelling. And alongside Andrea Briccardo and Doug Ruan, who is one of the greatest cover artists that Marvel had at this period. They did an unforgettable run of Alien known as Alien Thaw. It's a really cool ice idea. Definitely check that if you're looking to know more about that. Lastly, the run that ended the Alien era at Marvel was Alien Descendant, numbers 1 through 4, November 2023 to February 2024. This is also a really strong run by the same team, but that led us into Alien Black, White, and Blood. This saw some unbelievable big names at Marvel, like Colin Kelly, Elena Casagrande, who people might recognize from some Spider work and some Marauders work. There was also some incredible stories by people like Paul Jenkins, who is one of the foremost voices in comics. We have Brian Hill, Stephanie Phillips, and more. So if you are a fan of the Marvel Black, White, and Blood books, these are absolutely up there with the Elektra and Wolverine editions. Check them out. If I am going to tell you to look at something, I would say check out Ben Percy's Aliens Aftermath #1 from September 2021. They would ultimately go on to adapt this idea of Alien one-shots into the annuals format. There would be 3 Alien annuals in this period. But keep your eyes peeled for October 2024 when Alien Romulus #1 drops. I'm very excited to pick that up. I hope we will be covering it on the show. And thank you for coming to my Theodore discussion about the best other Alien titles at Marvel.
Thank you for having me.
Man, I don't know. It's weird because like I don't talk about the fact that I always read every Alien comic. I have all 4 omnibus editions on my shelf. I have the 8, 9, 10. I have all 11 editions of the Dark Horse Alien softcover omnibus editions. I think the best-selling versions of those were the Buffy ones. So those of you who had the softcover Dark Horse Buffy omnibus, it's the same thing but for Alien. I don't know. Alien's just my favorite universe. I've played more Alien video games than anything. I've listened to more Alien audiobooks than anything. It's just my favorite. And I've watched 2 different Alien video games be adapted into film. So, like, you know, it really says something about the dexterity of the universe that Alien can do all that it does. And I'm really excited that we had the opportunity to talk about how Alien could affect the Marvel Universe. While admittedly, I did feel that a lot of the strokes were kind of hollow, like all that freedom stuff in the Declaration of Independence. I did think that the core of the book was well seated in the things it was meant to reflect, both John Hickman's work at Marvel and the Alien universe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, well, I do want to talk a little bit about the rest of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, let's catch up a little bit.
She is sloppy boy, and I have.
Oh, please. I was going to say just really quickly, like I kind of, as we were going through stuff, I was like, you know, maybe Marvel wins this week. Like it's been a very DC wins every week, and I've often said a lot of that is because DC's new to me. It's shiny, and Alien did win the week. Alien Vs Avengers won the week by a lot. It's a fantastic book. But no one is doing great in catch-ups. But I don't know. I was a little bummed at how not great these X books are not. Well, I don't know. It's not even that. Let's get into it. You muted.
Sorry, I was trying to responsibly recover the spare bat signal before I could kick it another time because I get so excited when we're talking that I like flail.
I figured it was either that or just, you know, trying to get a Truly out of like a very stuck pack.
No, there are none of those in this house. So this, the Truly though, this is not the best period for X-Men for me. One of the things that I've been a little bit frustrated by from the Ashes has been an inability to deliver on the first issue promise. It feels like in many ways that the first issues were written around really strong pitch books and the second issues were written around perhaps editorial reaction to those pitch books. And I have felt very much like even the best first issues have resulted in disappointing second issues, which is where, before we can even talk about the stuff that's even come out, I want to just say that we have not had a second proper issue of Uncanny, but it has been referenced, and we still haven't had the first issue of Extraordinary. Really leaves me wondering what the bigger picture of this era is supposed to be, that I'm on my third issue of Jed McKay's, I'm sorry, is it not just Jerry Duggan's X-Men again? Like, this is not leaving me feeling very positive. This is like getting all new writers at SNL. Just stop giving all of the jokes to the hot guy.
Yeah, starting with X-Men, it's just not wowing me. What Jed McKay does not often resonate with me. And that's okay, because I people who I love and respect and who are really invested in properties that like I'm not invested in. Fans of Moon Knight love what Jed McKay did with Moon Knight. Moon Knight's just not one of my guys. Like he should be because he's Jewish. But our Judaisms are very different.
Mine's Garland.
There you go. I just don't resonate with the property, but I see that he really made some strides with it. Avengers, I've had really positive things to say about the fact that like I read Jason Aaron's Avengers, and said like I really think this was the right guy to be doing Avengers right after Endgame came out, and to introduce a generation of people that might have just said, oh, I like those movies, I'll give the comics a try, to like what comic Avenger stories really are like. But I don't think it was like incredible writing. It didn't, some of the Krakoan stories really changed. They resonated with me on such a level because they're queer stories, they're love stories, they're polyamory stories. Avengers isn't any of those things, and it didn't hit me emotionally at all. But like, man, it was a lot of fun. Man, it did get to some really core academic stuff for me about like the meta cosmology of what it means to be an Avenger, and like the existence of Avengers Prime, and so much of the stuff that it was talking about in terms of like how the Avengers manifest in the multiverse and what that means for like what Avengers are. I thought that was all really cool and fun. I think McKay is doing similar work insofar as like the quality to me is not better than Aaron's. It's at that same level. It's just not resonating with me. I'm just not crazy into it. And a weird thing is happening with this one where we're 3 issues in and he hasn't introduced a team of villains that the X-Men can't fight on their own. Like, one is individually like an exact match for Cyclops. One is an exact match for Magic. One is an exact match for Juggernaut. And then by the 3rd issue, they flipped them around and everybody's fighting somebody else's guy. So it's fine, which is the thing that he keeps doing, which is driving me insane. And now
I only mean to say that it is a little bit Burger King Kids Club tie-in comic, where that's Kid Vid, and this is his nemesis, Kid Camcorder, and it's just like a little too on the nose every single month in every single title.
What's so funny is this is the first time he hasn't done that in a while. Because his 2 really big high profile things where he immediately did it one after the other were Avengers, and then immediately Blood Hunt. Team of vampires, all of them are matched for the Avengers right after we had the Ashen Combine, which is the same thing. And he's done it before, and I'm just kind of like, this is what happens. And so when it doesn't happen in X-Men, I'm like, wait, I came expecting your trick. And instead we just get 3 very slow, unhappy issues. I don't care about Alaska or a Sentinel factory.
It will gladly pay you $10,000 after taxes to
give me something like that. Give me camp. There's nothing really camp about this. Like, even Magneto's speeches aren't particularly camp. Oh
my God, Magneto's sitting in the shadows, like Like somebody didn't have the money to finish the animatronic.
It does really feel like that. We're 3 issues in. I don't understand why he's in a wheelchair or in a floating chair.
He's basically being palakined by his ego. It is so weird.
And I just like, there was a moment that I really noticed that bothered me insofar as it really feels like the reflection from on high, and like what Marvel wants you to take away is holistically anything like Krakoa was just bad. If there was, the fact that there was a problem with Krakoa means that all of Krakoa was bad. But if they want to reference a good thing that happened during the Krakoan era, it is isolated to just that thing was good. And so when characters talk about Krakoa, it's entirely like your doomed nation state that was terrible all around and everything about it was bad, failed, and now we're out of it. And like, people who didn't like Krakoa so smugly are like, Hickman was saying it was bad the whole time. No, what Hickman was saying is all nations are bad. They're all going to have problems. Somebody's paradise is somebody else's, like every nation, somebody loves their country and somebody else is absolutely miserable in that country. Somebody goes to their government because they believe they actually can do good and they want to step up and serve and help, and other people go to enrich themselves and make sure they're the ones in power and make sure that that's literally the whole point. That's the point of all nations.
Hashtag Eurovision.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, Eurovision is also completely a microcosm for this. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again. Hickman was never saying this is all just bad. He was saying, look at all the joy these people have. They're so happy and they're so safe. What is the price of that? And we only ever got to see, like, for instance, we only ever got to see one government for Krakoa. There are, and at the end we see a different one that's working, but we just don't get to keep it. So it really bothers me now when the pave over is just, like Krakoa was just bad. It was just a bad idea. It was just bad news. Everything about it was bad. Nobody was happy. Nothing good happened. And when that is especially put in, again, I'm using this word because it applies too much in comic stories, because again, this is something I talked about at least 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. Stories require conflict, totally true. When it's all conflict all the time, which happens too much in X-Men, it is joyless. There is no joy. There is no fun. Why Krakoa was great was because there was joy and fun. There was also a lot of conflict. I would even say there was too much conflict. There were a lot of times that I remember, just like Jonah and I would constantly talk about how we wanted a slice of life book. We just wanted a book where there wasn't really conflict, like Orcus is coming for us. It was like, where do we get the special berries for our pies? That's all we wanted. All we wanted all day long. For years we asked for it. I never imagined we could go to this level of joylessness, but like no one's happy. None of them are happy. And I know that these older, more traditional comic writers think, yeah, because we got to keep them in conflict. You're not going to like it if they're not in conflict. Stories are boring if there's no conflict. They're more boring if there's zero joy.
Yeah, nobody wants to be trapped in the Lincoln Tunnel. Like, that is not the goal. Like, you need a way out of the darkness. And I think one of the things that X-Men has ever really failed to do is be a complete issue. 3 issues in, because I'm still waiting for any sort of joy effect. There is so little joy effect, it might as well be Joy Division. I give this whole run across the board C, C-, somewhere in that range. This has been 3 issues that have just not brought me joy.
X-Men and Phoenix are definitely both C's for me. There's just something not working about Phoenix. There's something not working about Phoenix. It is, to me,
I describe it as too thin.
I think that is partially it. When we sit and come back and talk about it, we can get into it a little more, but there's just something that's not working about. I think that's X-Men is a C, maybe a C-. Phoenix is a C plus, maybe B minus, somewhere in that region. NYX after this issue, NYX is closer to a B minus B for me.
I agree with everything until NYX is a B minus.
I like the reveal of the villain. And it made that this one had a little joy. They danced at the end. I have to put my money where my mouth is a little bit. This one had the slightest bit of joy. It had a little too much lack of joy before it got to the joy. But it also, if nothing else, Jackson Lanzig really wants you to know that he read the original NYX. And sometimes that comes off as really pathetic. And in this case, it came off as very tributary and very like, I specifically called this NYX for a reason. I still don't know if ultimately it will justify the fact that that happened, but I do feel like he came with a good heart, good intentions, good references. And again, there was some joy. There was some camp, there was some fun, there was some joy. I still think everybody is drawn with this weird triangle face where they all just look like big-mouthed monsters. But I don't know. B minus. I think it was. I nodded my head. It gave me a little at the end.
I really resonate with your review of NYX because I agree that for me, I think X-Men is a C minus. I think that Phoenix is a C plus, B minus at its best moments.
Yeah.
I give NYX's intent an A minus, but I give the actual book a D. I'm unhappy panel to panel. I like, Kid Riot, our comic book series, the three of us work on it. Kevo, if you just want to wave hi for a second for, Kid Riot Color Magic. We are in the midst of getting excited about relaunching it, and our feral super guy is named Howler because he's kind of a little bit wolf-like. Naming one guy Local, naming one person Scratches, naming the bad guy Mr. Friend. Kevo has tortured me for a series of free verse poems I wrote when I was 23 years old, and he should torture me. God help us. And Mr. Friend was the kind of thing I put in that thing that he has never let me live down. I understand what he's going for, but it is a little bit like naming the bad guy who is a pimp and also fucks gay dudes Mr. AIDS. It's like a little too trying to sound cool with the youths. I'm just shocked that one of the lines of dialogue wasn't Mr. Friend is brat. Like, it was that level of felt flat. But the ideas, the intent, wanting to show this dystopian queer happiness that uses a unique color palette, I completely understand what they are going for. It is maybe a place where ultimately the problem is more editorial lack of singular vision, making it harder to understand how any of these books work together. Because I don't know the world in which NYX and X Factor and this X Force, the book of the month, maybe, but also the worst book of the month. I give this X Force gets a B minus, and I don't know what else to say about it.
I actually did not read X Force yet. I just felt kind of inundated with these, and again, like the joylessness overall was just kind of getting to me in a way that I was just like, I can't risk it also coming into X Force, especially because it has my favorite sapphic couple. I'm just so worried they're gonna get busted. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's no matter what happens, this is just a really unfun time. And, some of my greatest reads of all time are not fun. Like the books that taught me how to be a better writer, how to be a better reader, how to be a better person are not the least bit fun. and they're not meant to be. They're not meant to be fun. They're meant to do other things. I do think these are the intention of the team that put them out was that they are fun, and they have failed. And I feel really bad saying that because they have not failed on a lot of other levels. They've not failed artistically. They have not failed to tell cogent stories. They've not failed to have great ideas. They've not failed to understand these characters, to come with heart. But I'm not having a good time, man.
You can hit all of the marks and still get a low grade. That's one of the things. Like, just because you completed the assignment as assigned does not mean that you are entitled to an A. And that's something we sometimes feel really bad about, because when we're talking about art, we're talking about reflections of how a person feels about the world they grew up in, the things that they have taken from that world and they apply to themselves. We all see the fanboy in ourselves in every writer. So we never want to say, oh, well, this wasn't my version of it, because we're afraid that we're somehow casting negativity on, this creator. Jed MacKay just wrote Blood Hunt. Jed MacKay, who has been on this show and made dinner on this show. I'm not fucking kidding. Jed MacKay is not devastated that fan of his, Nico Action, had a couple of notes for him on a couple of issues. He is more concerned if I say something like, what a hateful person telling transphobic stories, which is not true. And that's, I think, a little bit where we need to kind of keep things in check. It's kind of okay to say that From the Ashes is a critical dud for us. We're not saying that we think these creators are bad people, and I'm sure I will buy the next Gail Simone project at Marvel, regardless of how I feel about her second issue of Uncanny X-Men when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Speaking of women and their second issue of titles that they are now synonymous with, I actually really am kind of borderline obsessed with Daredevil Woman Without Fear. That second issue, pitting the female new Daredevil against the dumb new Punisher. What a fun thing to do when we were told this was going to be Elektra versus Crossbones. What a cool way to subvert my expectations and get me excited, because Elektra is so annoyed by this guy. It is so amusing.
I agree in every way. I have like a bigger thing about the Punisher existing at all and how quick that book was and sort of what the point was. But putting him here, I don't know. I love it and I hate it. I love it because she just is so much better than this guy, and he's just such a pain in her ass.
And he just won't die. That seems to be the biggest frustration in his life. In her life.
Yeah. But I sort of wonder, like, is this maybe even too small potatoes for her? I don't know. I'm attached to, this is all your fault. I didn't have to care about these people 2 years ago. I didn't have to care about these people. 3 years ago, I didn't have to care about these people at all. Now I have to care about Punisher. I have pitches for Punisher. I have great ideas for Punisher. I have a whole way to fix this. We got a run that fixed Punisher. Again, Jason Aaron just like absolutely doing things that were so important. And I mean, because again, I can't ever say, I feel like every time we talk about the Punisher, I have to say this IP is toxic. This is radioactive.
What, you think that the Punisher is a negative force in this world?
And it's that thing where like radiation is how we cure your cancer, like, but it still also will kill you. So like I
thought that was prayer.
We got to use this stuff very sparingly, and we really got to know what the fuck we're doing. And Jason Aaron really did. And I feel like Erica Schultz, I'm not worried about this man being glorified in the pages of Erica Schultz's Daredevil Woman Without Fear. So I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that we are not doing, because even Miller, he was not glorifying Punisher, but he did want to ask the question, like, if I kill the guy that's going to go on to kill 20 people and you just stop him because you don't kill people, but then he actually does go on to do the thing that I stopped him from doing, aren't I the better guy? It's a fair question to ask. It really was a very fair question to ask. And there's interesting stuff there. And just, I don't know how we got so far off the rails that cops now wear Punisher stuff all the time. It's a real bummer. And this dude is not going to have a discussion like that with Elektra. We're not going to get that discourse from these two people. One, because Elektra has killed a ton of people, so it's a different discourse with her.
Coming at your mouth with your blah, blah, blah.
This place is about to blow. But I
am a cannibal.
I feel like Elektra and another woman could have had a comparable discourse about other stuff. And again, a woman is writing this, so it's her choice, and I'm not here to be like, you did it wrong, lady. Let me, a dude, tell you how to do it right. It's more just like, I'm so worried about the Punisher all the time. That's what it comes down to. All that said, still, yeah, totally B+, A-. Really great book. Love Elektra so much. Very complimentary to her journey in the pages of Daredevil by Saladin Ahmed. Just in terms of like, this character's living right now. She doesn't really get the profile from Marvel that she deserves, but she's in 2 books right now the character work is being done, and that makes me happy.
And speaking of Daredevil, I want to talk about how you can bring together 3 of the greatest people to ever be involved in their industry. You know, you had mentioned that we covered the Jason Aaron Avengers run, and it kind of made me laugh that we never called it the Jason Aaron Cooter Avengers Forever run, because it's Jason Aaron and Aaron Cooter. I think Saladin Ahmed is one of the greatest writers working at Marvel right now. Top 10 without a question. I think Aaron Cooter has the best eye for emotional character line work since Steve Dillon. And yet I feel like when you bring that together alongside the vision for this era of Daredevil being something that has been promised for a really long time, I'm just sort of winding up kind of Babyface doing When You Believe with Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. Sure, it's something I love to sing, but I don't hit play on the track. And that's kind of how I'm feeling here. This is Daredevil, Religion, Rebirth, AU versions of Daredevil that are significantly aware of real Daredevil, Daredevil as Elektra as Daredevil, running around facing a mystically supernaturally powered Kingpin alongside a mystically supernaturally powered Bullseye, and yet the whole thing is just so hollow. I want to love you, toilet seat. I do. But much like Rebecca Gayheart playing a Grim Reaper when she'd already killed the person with her car, it just sort of feels like we are treading territory that people are telling me we've never tread, but we've definitely rolled over multiple times through the crosswalk. And so I really would like to see where this run is promising me it's headed. Issue 13 is giving us an opportunity to maybe wipe the slate clean, because I found the last 2 issues 11 and 12, roughly C's. Neither one of these really sought to push the title forward. And then what was really frustrating is at the end of issue 12, Kingpin is like humbled. He's broken. The force has been beaten out of him. The cover of 13 is Kingpin, strangling Matt with his giant fist. And it's just, I'm left wondering, why is that the narrative when you clearly beat it out last narrative?
Yeah, I think you've really pinpointed.
King pinpointed.
I mean, like, it's also like, where's Mary? Who is this Kingpin? What's happening? It really
Where's
feels.
Mary? What a great question. Thank you.
It really feels like this is about Matt versus the 7 Deadly Sins, which is like, okay, that's cute for a taste. Like, that's a cute mini. I probably would have done 12 and ended it. That's what this feels like. Like, we're going to do however many issues it takes to have him fight all 7 Deadly Sins, and then somebody else is taken over, I bet. And this will have been a story that was fully told, but doesn't really, Zdarsky gave us a world so inhabited and so full of not just stories, but like lives, and connection. And there's just like, kids can't hang around, because it's not, you're just always protecting them. They're not safe. You can't, we're not going to, maybe one of them becomes a sidekick, but I doubt it. But even then, like, Matt's probably not hanging around the kids much longer. It's not fun to have Elektra active and being a Daredevil and not having them have, at minimum, will they, won't they, if not fully returning to their relationship. We're missing Foggy. It does not feel like we're staying here. So we're treading water here. And if we're going to do that, that's fine, but we better do it well. And when we draw out some of these stories, because, 7 Deadly Sins, we could be done in 7 issues. But let's assume some of them need to go a little longer. I thought this whole thing could have been 12 issues. The fact that we are at 12 and he's only pushed back 5 of the Deadly Sins and we got to do 2 more. I assume maybe New Year's we're wrapping this up. I don't know. It's fine. It's not terrible at all. Saladin Ahmed is a fantastic writer. I don't feel like this is one for the ages.
And I think part of what is so frustrating is they kind of promised it as one for the ages on the heels of one for the ages, built into this narrative of what if this was all one bigger picture. Yeah. Obviously, they never said that Saladin Ahmed was just trying to have... I think about what it means to be somebody like Fabian Nicieza, like Scott Lobdell, who, even if they had remained stalwart gentlemen throughout their entire careers, one of them did, one of them didn't, it would still be a very different discussion because they followed Chris Claremont in a way that meant that they could never truly be themselves. No matter what, at the end of the day, they were the guys that followed Claremont. Saladin Ahmed's run on Daredevil is forever going to be the guy who followed Chip Zdarsky, somebody who did what is considered at this point a legendary run on Daredevil. His run on Wolverine will be free of any such ugly trappings. And it's because at the end of the day, Ben Percy is like, it's really funny. I mean this sort of lightheartedly, but also kind of not. Ben Percy is kind of like the first serial killer in any movie franchise. Obviously, nobody goes, oh, Stu, he's the killer of Scream. When you think Scream, you think Stu, you think Billy. And you might, but for me, my favorite killer in the entirety of the Scream franchise is Billy's mom. My second favorite killers come from Scream 5. I genuinely think that you can reinvent the wheel in ways that are exciting. The telephone is one of the greatest things that ever happened to the universe, but the cell phone is something different, and it took the internet and the telephone to do it. Ben Percy's Wolverine is one part of what is going to be remembered as the cell phone. Whether it's the telephone or the internet, I don't know yet, but it's going to be disregarded for many years before it's accepted and respected. And I think one of the things that run, that character study over 3 years means is that Saladin Ahmed has the opportunity to make action where cerebrality, to use a word that I made up earlier this episode one more time, won out the day for several years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I hear where you're coming from. This is one of those ones where, like, at this point, I mean, this is a year in. We're a year in now. I don't know when we get off of this roller coaster, and I don't know I don't know what to do with it. So it's, we're kind of just here.
And I feel so bad. I was just thinking about it. I was like stuck in my head for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, we're at an hour and 15 and we haven't even finished.
I know, we gotta
move a little faster, unless you want to push some DC stuff back a little bit.
No, so do we have another Marvel one?
No.
Yeah, so let's
all right. I do want to say that I love the League of Comic Geeks, or whatever website it is that I use, who, like all of the review sites on the internet, thought that 0 Hour was still coming out today, or yesterday as it were. And then sadly, I woke up to a world that I am not a part unless I can play The Stranger to 0 Hour. It is devastating that I do not have a copy of this in my hands, but I do want to remind everybody that part of what I've been talking about for the last year is doing a complete read of all Green Lantern titles. That started with Green Lantern #1, Volume 2 from 1959, and I have made my way all the way through 1994. I left myself off at 0 Hour in preparation for this event, and I read all of 0 Hour today. Let's talk about books that were the internet or the phone to the cell phone, and yet neither single one of them could pick up a call. 0 Hour is literally the thing that you owe everything you love about Last Hero Standing, about Secret Wars, about the idea of multiversity. You owe everything you love about every one of those things to this book, and yet it was one of the worst crossovers I have ever read in my entire life. Nothing made sense. References were like, look at this, it's so important, we're not going to bring it up again, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not great, but yeah, I mean, like, so many cool ideas and gorgeous art, and like, there is, people do this thing now where they're like, it's a nacho table, and you just like throw all the stuff for nachos on a large table that's like covered in aluminum sheeting, so it's like you're not like literally eating off the table, but it's just this like enormous thing, but it's total chaos. It's a little gross. It's weird, and it's obvious that you really did, like, it was just this amount of effort to not like be slamming your hands into a ton of ingredients and just shoving them into your face. And that's kind of what this is. It's like they really just did want to have a bunch of stuff. Like they really just did want all of these like little elements coming together and all these different character designs showing up, and they wanted the chaos. And it is in there's a point to it. There's a reason for the chaos, of course. It's so chaotic, and the reason so lacking in what we would expect today in terms of like a lot of detail work and background information to explain mechanically why it's happening.
Oh my God, the mechanics.
I got nothing. It really is just the sloppiest thing of table nachos ever. And that's okay. They're still delicious, but like, Jesus Christ, what a mess. And like, no, that's not haute cuisine.
And I think one of the things that has me thrown off the most is this is treated as like the secret gem you didn't realize. And one of the things that I am most so enamored of our relationship of, one of the reasons that I love you the most, is that you and I find these beautiful gems everywhere we go. I feel like, so many great stories are, oh, well, people were in the right place at the right time and they found the gem. But I kind of feel like wherever you and I go, the gems are there. It just, the magic just kind of comes together. And I feel like 0 Hour, since I came into fandom as an adult, roughly when I was a sophomore in high school, I really became super involved in comics, and that and MSN games, Hearts and Mahjong. And I really fell in love with comics as a fandom medium roughly around 16 years old, 2001, 2002. And Zero Hour was one of those things that like the cool guys that would be like, oh, listen, I'm into this thing, the Wachowskis, and they're into this thing called The Matrix. Those people, they were all really into Zero Hour. And I kept thinking when I would get to this, it would be the most genius thing I'd ever read. And as somebody who, for the first time in his entire life, read Zero Hour today, unfulfilling, disappointing. I love what you said, beautiful art, but I don't know if you realize this, that reference they make where they're like, oh wow, Donna Troy, are you really a Dark Star? Are you really a Dark Star, or are you just an alternate universe Dark Star, or are you an alternate universe? That should be a tongue twister. Version of yourself. She really was a Dark Star at this point. That isn't an alternate universe Donna Troy. And like, there were so many things that I needed answered. And I felt like this was the kind of thing that if it had been 12 issues, I would have been rewarded. But at 5 issues, I felt shortchanged.
I for sure get that. I think I did not have enough point of reference to get there. What is really funny is we're reading this 30-year-old crossover event at the same time as we're reading Absolute Power, and it's very funny. I don't know, like there's something about the way everybody shows up in a DC crossover story that just somehow feels different than the way everybody shows up in a Marvel crossover story. Who is the cat-faced dude from the Justice Society?
Catman?
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
It's just Catman. I don't fucking know.
Oh, I like, okay. So at the Batman yesterday, I lost my shit. I was like, I am just truly disappointed that it is not revealed that the Riddler is secretly Owlman. And hot older boyfriend was just like, are you having a moment? It's called Batman. And I'm like, no, it's Owlman. He's secretly Batman's long lost older brother. You should know these things. And he's like, I start liking Batman when Keaton steps into the suit. And I'm like, oh, right. Culturally speaking, people come to these movies and even these crossovers in 1994, which are so based on people's ability to access these films and not giant wiki-based libraries of comics. Yeah, I really should have thought better of that.
So no, it's not Catman. It was Wildcat.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much for correcting me. I'm so sorry. I don't know all of my Justice Society guys quite the same way.
Sure. Well, so it's just very funny because he is in the big montage of like, attention DC characters, shit be going down in this and in Absolute Power. And this feels like a really D-list character to me. Like he might be C-list or something, but
I mean, the minute you start bringing in Justice Society, you're talking C-list to start. And
right.
I really do feel like I have thought this entire time that Wildcat really was named Catman.
And there is a Catman. I googled it. There's a guy.
Several Catman.
Sure. I've been known to be a little bit of a cat boy myself from time to time. I'm kidding. Never. I'm a dog person through and through. But I just like, yes, there's the scene where Superman broadcasts himself to everybody. And I was just, you get the exact same scene in Absolute Power where Batman is like, hey, everybody, we're fucked. And it just...
Well, then they break open the lost city of Kandor and everybody is just fine for 3 seconds. And then they figure out all that radiation shit.
I have very much enjoyed comparing these two side by side and just sort of having a little bit of an idea, getting a little bit of an idea of what the culture is around a DC crossover event. I do think you can see both where storytelling trends have evolved in a really positive way. But also, again, like DC just, Marvel is trying constantly to figure out how to be the best restaurant in Manhattan. And they will do anything to do that, including like having filet mignon on a menu with like Subway pizza. And it's just like, do you guys like both things, right? Like, we can give you the best cut of meat you've ever had, and we can also give you a pizza that is objectively bad, but you love it. Just love this restaurant and love us so much. DC, it's always just table nachos, man. It's always just like, it is a disgusting pig slop trough that is confusing and makes no sense and is filthy and gets everywhere, but it's consistent. Like, it's always, if you don't want table nachos, don't go. But otherwise, you're getting a great set of table nachos. It's just like, table nachos is never going to have filet mignon plated and brought to you. But you knew that when you went in. Like, if you did not know that, that's a you problem. That's, go for the table nachos.
Nobody walks into Moe's, hears the phrase, "Welcome to Moe's," and thinks to themselves, I have finally reached Peter Luger's. It is not the chain of command.
It's that moment from Arrested Development. "Welcome to Klimpy's, anywhere you like." This does not bode well.
But I think for DC, it does bode well.
Yeah.
In some interesting ways, because one of the things that I really enjoyed about 0 Hour is how all of the iconography features Kyle, who I love Kyle Rayner. I think, Kyle is, my Green Lantern in so many ways. I kind of find Hal really boring. But beyond that, one of the things that I love the most about Kyle Rayner is that he represents this idea of like 90s excitement for the newness of a character. And ultimately, it isn't that Ben Reilly caught on the way they thought he would as a partner to Kyle Rayner, but instead the renewness of Peter Parker in the pages of the J. Michael Straczynski run of Amazing Spider-Man would go on to really serve that purpose, that complete idea. And so that we see in the preview pages for now next week's 0 Hour 30th anniversary, something that I thought was really interesting is that Kyle is front and center on everything. It's all about Kyle. Ooh, how Kyle fits into this. Kyle was in like genuinely of the 150 pages of the trade, 30 pages, and that's generous because I don't think he spoke on 8 of them. I think this book really is an example of where the idea of the storytelling supersedes necessarily the execution, but it still affects the score in a positive way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I look forward to reading the special next week, having a bit of a countdown to it, because for those of you who don't realize, 0 Hour goes number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1, number 0. I almost said 4 or 5 because like it's so unnatural to count down from 4, but 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. For those of you who are doing the Green Lantern read along at home, it's a Guy Gardner issue that is the only significant issue of Green Lantern that interacts with this significant Parallax crossover moment. Of course, it isn't until Final Night that Parallax, Hal Jordan, and the Green Lantern Spectre mythos come to a really poignant conclusion. But that is, of course, for a later date. All said and done, I can't wait to read that issue next week. It'll be really exciting to see. I think it's $10, 80 pages, but it's 30 years of creators having an opportunity to think about how they would want to interact with this story that was really the story that taught them how to play with the multiverse, and I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it.
I also want to point out that Kevo out there just put an amazing reference to where you have to be careful. So Kevo, do you want to pop in and explain it for a moment, or do you want me to do it? You can just,
So in the original treatment for the TV show Lost, the character of Boone was whatever the fifth, and was referred to as 5 in the script. And they changed their minds on that and did a search and replace to replace all instances of the word 5 with Boone, because how many times could that be in a script where Kate has this whole sequence where she talks with the other Dr. Shepard about how you count to 5 to calm yourself down, and that resulted in the speech becoming 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. one of my favorite search and replace stories, right up there with the complete novelization of the 7th season of Buffy, replacing every instance of the words "the first" next to each other with capitalized.
So it says like the first thing she did, capital T, capital
The first
F.
thing she did. Yep.
Yeah.
God bless.
We actually, and I have to look up the producer's name now, but we actually saw a New York Theater Workshop conjunction panel at New York Comic Con. No, sorry, not New York Theater Workshop, New York Television Workshop. I've done panels with both at this point in conjunction with New York Comic Con, where the guy was a writer for Lost, and he was like, yeah, I can say it now because I'm out of my NDA. No, we literally ran out of stories during the 2nd season. We had no idea you people would guess that it was Purgatory. We panicked. We came up with all that stuff about the hatch. And like, he just like was like, no, really, we ran out of stories. And
it was weird.
He was clearly a little tipsy and was so forthcoming. But the other thing is, if you read James B. Stewart's Disney War, you know that Lost was conceived by the ABC company as a scripted Survivor after they passed on Survivor and regretted it. So they said, take the best parts of Survivor and Gilligan's Island and make a show. And Michael Eisner threw unlimited money at the problem until they got the thing that he said, and I quote, would make up for Survivor. And that is the very fast production of Lost, and how the 4th writer in 2 years to work on the pilot was ultimately the person whose draft made it. So a little behind the scenes shit for those of you who don't want to read Pulitzer Prize winning authors' novels. Go read a book.
And then someday we'll talk about whether or not Once Upon a Time is secretly Fables.
It is.
It is and it isn't, bro. It is and it isn't. Good stuff.
Oh my god, he's the fucking funniest human. So I think that the 0 hour experiment is also really interesting because I didn't grow up in the 0 hour era, but one of the things that I did come to realize pretty quickly is Parallax is Onslaught. When you think about, you know, the good guy that becomes the bad guy by fusing the powers together, Parallax is Onslaught. DC got there first. And I actually think Onslaught is way more effective because Onslaught had much more far-reaching kind of like effects. All that really happens as a result of Parallax is Hal Jordan stops being Green Lantern. Pretty much sum total.
Well, and Marvel had learned from its mistake by sort of dampening the effect of the Phoenix by being like, it wasn't Jean Grey.
Yep.
So if we ever do this again, like, Onslaught has always been Professor X's problem. More than Magneto's even. Like, it's such a funny thing. Whenever Onslaught shows up, like, whenever Onslaught is mentioned, it's really Professor X's shame. And not just because he did the thing, but just like that was in him. But half of it was in Magneto. That's the whole point. And Magneto never feels bad about it. But anyway...
Oh, yeah, they always treat it like it was just some training downloaded from Magneto. Magneto has no reason to feel bad. Really, think about it. Magneto's the victim here.
He's the victim here, which in some ways, sure. But yeah, I mean, like, it has always been you screwed this up, Charles. And DC, I guess this was maybe their first time doing that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that. But like the fact that ultimately they pull back because they don't want to lose Hal Jordan and say that Hal Jordan was possessed and make Parallax into a weird yellow centipede
That's the one.
Is a little bummer sauce.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I think ultimately is when you talk about companies not allowing their characters to have teeth after 50 and 60 years, kind of the best example of it. I don't want characters I love to be mass murderers, but something I think that happens that erases the quality of a story is like, we have worked so hard to both nerf and purify the Scarlet Witch in a way that has left Steve Orlando making her this, I don't know, nearly nun-like figure in her own book. She's like a magical nun. And she's just always going about her day in the convent wearing her mystical scarlet habit. And she communes with the other nuns, and they go into the community and they do outreach, and she comes home and lives a very weird life related to her deity-like family. And it is a very flat tone for a character who could have so much more. And I think it's because even now, 20 years after the fallout of House of M, we're still left in a position where we will never shake that Alex Maleev cover of Scarlet Witch for, what is it, New Avengers 25? We are trapped in that moment. And it is to the discredit of women. It is to the discredit of the Scarlet Witch as a character, and even Bendis and Maleev's legacy at Marvel, which actually speaks better to the quality of storytelling for women, characters, and their work.
I don't want to get too into this because we're on the DC side of things right now, and I'll rant forever about Marvel stuff if I do. So, yes to everything you said.
Okay, I'll take it just because it makes me feel cute. But
Good.
Then I guess we should talk about some DC stuff. Fine.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to do that. Let's talk about some titles we've started and haven't read in a minute. Absolute Power #2. I can't believe Mark Waid would defile the Fortress of Solitude. I'm talking about the gentleman who, of course, wrote Tower of Babel. So, I mean, literally, the guy who wrote the comic that is everybody finds out Batman has a book on how to kill every single member of the Justice League. We are literally talking about that man and his visionary storytelling. When did Tower of Babel come out? 98? 99? We're talking about a guy who understood the bigger picture before Morrison turned the JSA into gods. And so, we are thinking about a man whose legacy at DC stretches back 50 years, remains progressive, remains hip, remains modern. I think his Queen Brainiac speaks volumes about his understanding of the evolution of concepts that he is clearly connected to. And so when you wind up with this man who speaks so clearly to the protection of queer people, the protection of youth, his interpretation of John Kent is so fucking off the walls. This whole John Kent as a serial killing android is just like, or cyborg, I guess cyborg is just nuts. And so I'm compelled to love this book as an A-level masterclass in destroying the things you love. But at the same time, I am frustrated and fan-negged by his portrayal of the joylessness of the DC universe. So I want to give this book an A, but it really balances out at a B-.
I think I'm there with you. For this one in particular, I think I'm at about a B-. The event overall is still B+ territory, I think.
Agreed, yes.
It's weird. Let's just talk about all of them at once. Task Force 7.
What an A book.
A book, but also like not Task Force 7. Like
not Task Force 7 at all. What a poorly labeled A book.
I mean, it is like this Absolute Power is Absolute Power A and Task Force 7 is Absolute Power B. Like you kind of, if you're not reading Task Force 7, you're only getting half the story, but it's way more than Untucked. I don't know. Like it is an extremely,
you're only getting 1/7 of the story.
Exactly. Like it's extremely important. It is, incredibly narratively balanced and doing a really great job of giving you a semi-anthological story that is going to let you get through a bunch of DC heroes encounters with this event without having to shove them all into the Fortress of Solitude together. So like, in this most recent issue of Task Force 7, we do get some time with the Flash, who is not with all of them at the Fortress of Solitude in issue 2 of Absolute Power.
You really should check out the 12 issues of Cy Spurrier's Flash. I feel like even if you're not a big Flash guy, you would just be like, oh my God, this is Cy Spurrier everywhere.
Sure. I totally get that. I'm trying to remember who it was last issue. hold on one second.
Well, just real quick while you're looking that up,
Yeah.
I think the highlight of Task Force 7 is Jadestone.
Oh yeah.
What a refreshing take on a sentient robot who is driven by the power that is motivating their abilities.
Yep, that's another huge thing. Like it's I guess technically supplementary, but it's huge. I don't know, like it's huge. It feels very part of the main story.
Agreed.
Like a lot of these tie-in books, like a lot of the tie-ins are just like Batman number 51, but it's Absolute Power tie-in. It's not, rather than being with Marvel, it would be a separate issue, Batman Absolute Power.
Agreed.
With these, it's just a lot of tie-in issues. But a lot of the tie-in issues are just like, oh shit, absolute power's happening at us, run. And then it's just an issue of them not being in the main book because they want you to buy the main book. So like most of them, and it gets a little bit of a ding for this, most of the tie-in books are really that. It's really just like, some of them are really good, but it's really just like, here's why don't focus on us too much, go read the big books. The previous issue number, Absolute Task Force number 4, is Everybody at the Maze of Owls, and that was with Failsafe. That was another, again, a really good issue, really important,
mind blowing. I just reread the Snyder Run Court of Owls.
Yes,
mind blowing.
I know. I mean, I thought of you. I was thinking of you the whole time. So I don't know. It's just like there's so many cool things in Absolute Power Task Force 7, but I tell you what. I would assume that is the last book one ought to be reading in this event. I would so much more think Batman Absolute Power tie-in is more important than anything they could tell me in Absolute, especially because again, Amazos are stupid. So when I find out reading issue 1 that it's about them, my immediate thought is, well, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever read. And in fact, I'm completely wrong. And it's amazing, and that Batman issue is not particularly, you can skip it and you're fine. I would plead to you, if you read this event, the only 2 things you really have to read are the main book and Task Force 7, but you will get incredible stories out of that, and I'm really floored by that. It's unfortunate that it seems like they're a little tucked away, but again, like part of me is also like, maybe this is DC strategy stuff that I don't get or don't know about because I'm so new to this whole thing. I don't really know, but also just Dan Mora's art on Absolute Power is so hot.
Oh, so brilliant. And it's almost one of those things where like oftentimes you think, oh wow, the cover somehow improves upon the book in some regard. It shows some contrast. No, I only want Dan Mora covers to Dan Mora books. My God.
Yeah, I fully agree. Just great stuff.
Speaking of other books at the DC universe that we started and just want to catch up on real quick, I gotta say, I kind of maybe feel like Gotham City Sirens didn't live up to the promise of the first issue. I feel like the first issue, B+, overall series, kind of C+. It was never terrible, but I felt like it's about, like, in many ways, an evil energy drink. That's actually the plot of one of the seasons of the Fast and the Furious Netflix spin-off cartoon. So I don't want to hear shit ever again about anything.
Yeah, it didn't blow me away. One of the real unfortunate things, I don't know if this had to happen or if this was a poor strategy idea, alternating artists. 1 and 3 are Matteo Lolli, and 2 and 4 are Brian Hilliard, Dan Hilliard, David Hilliard.
Something like that.
It's a B or a D name, I want to say. Maybe a C. No, don't. It's not, doesn't work. They released one of these a week for 4 weeks. So
just like 0 Hour.
Yes. So I'm kind of like, maybe we didn't do that and then we just let Lolly do the whole thing. Hilliard has a really interesting style, but Leah Williams created this like incredible smart bimbo on an adventure, being like fun, like, you know, self-referential, smart, dumb sluts. And she nailed it at X-Men. She nailed it with Exterminators, and they had a great writer for that. And part of it is a woman scripting and writing women looking hot. And when you establish that style in issue 1 and then a different writer, a different artist comes in, even if he draws them hot, now it's like a whole other thing. I don't know. It's very confusing. Also, that it turns out that Punchline was a book and that this character is a person, but they never mentioned that in the first issue. They only start explaining it in the second with an editor's note saying to read Punchline. That was a bit of a rug take for me, especially because like we talked about it. I was like, I guess these are all new characters. Why wouldn't I think otherwise? You guys didn't reference anything in the first book. Because I probably would have peaked at Punchline 1 through 5 as they told me to in issue 2.
She's bad guy Harley now that Harley is mostly good guy Harley.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense. But like, I really, because I had no other frame of reference, you know, I sometimes really wonder if you just get so lost in this industry that you work in that you don't understand what it's like to not read the books like you read them. This is for Marvel too. Marvel editors' notes are worse. Marvel editors, as I said, like the thing I'll never stop complaining about, and when I finally get into that office, I'll make somebody apologize to me by person, is the fact that there's an editor's note to go read a Blade issue that they don't give you access to. Anyway, nobody gets how to do editor's notes. It was a bummer to realize after reading the first issue that there was kind of background work I could have done to get even more into this. It's fun. It was cute. It's a really like, Leah Williams knew all her shit to do this story. It just, absent being attached to anything, because it's a Black Label story, so it just kind of is.
Right.
And I think maybe I would have wanted this to be a little bit more like it is, and then.
Yeah. And I would want to see it go somewhere, which is...
Well, I felt the same way about Exterminators, by the way. Exterminators might as well have been Marvel's Black Label because those characters did not go start that team. That could have been NYX. Like, those girls could have been NYX.
Well, and that's even how I feel about Boy Wonder, about Zatanna bringing down the house, about Gotham by Gaslight. These are all separate canons.
Yeah.
Boy Wonder just sort of telling a beautiful fairy tale version of Robin. It continues to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Got a B+ for me for art, but kind of just like a B- for me for story. So B overall.
Yep.
I felt the same way about the Zatanna bringing down the house issues. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, but they are trying to simplify, streamline, and yet modernize and complexify her story. I feel like that's a lot of heavy lifting to do with one miniseries.
And as somebody who has read Zatanna almost exclusively in Morrison's Seven Soldiers and Identity Crisis, this book took a dip into making absolutely no sense to me.
Yes.
And now I don't really, I'm actually kind of still there. Cause again, Black Label, this might ultimately just be a Zatanna story, but like, Zatanna keeps being like, I don't know magic. I've never known magic. That's confusing to me, who has seen her do a whole bunch of it. And so I don't know. I mean, like it rides that line of, well, is the ultimate reveal going to be how, like, what sinister force happened that caused her to believe that when it's not true? Or is the ultimate reveal going to be, this is a different universe as Zatanna who did live that life?
It's Black Label, I think.
It is. Right. So either option is possible. It's a little confusing. Still a great story. Art out of this world. I will be able to situate it more clearly grading wise when the final thing has rolled out, when the final issue is rolled out and I kind of know what happened. Cute that Constantine was there, but I know that we also have a little bit of like she doesn't always need to run into John Constantine and reference their relationship.
Yes, because they were only ever connected by one issue previously, Totems from 1999-2000, a Millennium issue story that told about the Vertigo DC characters choosing to celebrate the new millennium ringing in together. There's a reference to John hits on her or something. Other than that, they have no contact before the New 52, really. Through New 52, they are given a complicated backstory where he is responsible for Zatara's death, and they had dated at some point. That's sort of gone again, kind of maybe. They don't really need to be connected any more than I think John needs to be connected to my favorite sorcerer in all of the DC universe, Tim Hunter. But I think that one of the things you wind up with is it's easier to marry off the characters you identify. Now, there are, of course, brilliant reasons to connect Storm and Black Panther, who have a few issues historically, of course, most notably Marvel Team Up 100 Story B. And like you could even make the comparison in a kind of sort of way to Jay-Z and Beyonce for Black Panther and Storm's marriage, where it happened historically speaking, that it united this idea of Black excellence from two very unique disciplines of music. And that is sort of the same thing that happened with Black Panther and Storm uniting the Wakandan nation with the X-Men. That's because there's real world powerful implications for those. Making John Constantine having dated Zatanna is just, I guess, all white people who do magic fuck. And it's sort of like not elevating of either of them. And of course, see my notes on Epiphany Greaves still existed at the point at which Zatanna was created. And so you can just eat a dick. Pete Milligan was writing all of it. So it's the most frustrating part. Pete Milligan, who is, of course, the magical haunted mask I put on at night when I want to feel strong in the mirror. But anyway, all that said, thank you for bringing up that John Constantine does not need to be here because John, go home. Speaking of people who need to go home, sorry to say it, Andy Diggle, fan of your The Losers, fan of some of your Daredevil work. I do not enjoy this run of Gotham by Gaslight. This just feels like somebody said, I want to do cool punkish stuff for Batman and the DC universe. What's available? And I just don't feel like this is Gotham by Gaslight. You know, Mike Mignola created one of the most densely packed universes in a 68-page special, and this feels egregiously self-aggrandizing at times, seeking to find story where there is just a panel of cool art.
I probably would have just cut the Gotham by Gaslight. I probably would have just called it Batman the Kryptonian Age.
Agreed. Truly.
That's it, because Gotham by Gaslight is really kind of another thing. Gotham by Gaslight is a little bit more like the Nolan and Reeves idea of what Batman's world is, but set in the past.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty light on the fantasy elements, light on the super heroics, but in 1790 or whatever. It's much more Batman, but in 1790. Gotham, but by gaslight rather than electric power, coal power, gas power. The Kryptonian Age, we're getting celestial and cosmic, we're getting magical. John Constantine is now in the mix here as well. And those are all really cool things. Very fun. Great stylization, really holistic story being told, but it's not Gotham by Gaslight. And the Kryptonian Age aspect of it is its own thing. Like we're talking now they're ancient aliens or something. I don't know. It's cool. It's all really cool. It's all really fun. It's not Gotham by Gaslight. And you're right. It is really self-indulgent, but, so by comparison with all these kind of Elseworlds, Black Label, other universe stories, so is Boy Wonder, so is Zatanna. So it's fine. DC's doing this, but also don't tarnish your own brands because you created Gotham by Gaslight. You get to decide what that is. I would be shocked to learn if they did the focus grouping that there were people that would have bought and enjoyed this book for sure if it was called Gotham by Gaslight, but would never have touched it if it was just called Batman the Kryptonian Age. I have to imagine basically the audience would have been the same either way. And that's such a thing with comics, is I just feel like they really don't know how to market their own shit and trust their own readers.
Truly, it's because they're always afraid that somebody's going to realize that it's all built on a house of cards and preview solicits.
Yeah, that is exactly it. So I don't know. Yeah, this is B-. I get how it's gonna get real big points off for kind of tarnishing the legacy of Gotham by Gaslight. Of course, nothing can do that worse than those 2011 stories. But that's okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. It just think about what you're doing and the choices that you make.
I think about that phrase, like, think about your choices, think about what you're doing with your story. And that's the thing that I really hope that Marvel is taking from this era, that DC is choosing to continue to focus on after a tumultuous time. We are really facing an era where both of these companies need to continuously adapt to keep fandom as best they can. And my main concern is just, can you continue to embrace a new audience while remembering that your old audience has paid your bills and will continue to if you continue to service them? I promise you, when dudes service me right, I pay their bills. So, I'm just saying, Marvel, if you need a sugar daddy, just send me the previews guide. And, I want to thank Kevo so much for running this episode so beautifully. It was a real magical experience to get to be able to say, hey, Kevo, hop on for a second. It was great to also see somebody in the comment how great it is that Kevo is such an active producer. And that's something that I think we're even talking about sometimes when we talk about what we expect to see from these companies. We know that a producer, somebody shaping this show, is capable of jumping in and out and kind of carrying the brand voicing. When we make jokes about the fact that Tom Brevoort isn't carrying the brand voicing, it's because it never feels like he's supporting the X-Men line. It feels like he's complaining about the parts of it he doesn't like. And I wonder how much reimagining 0 Hour in this super positive way for the 30th around Kyle Rayner is doing exactly the same thing, but because it's through nostalgia glasses, we think it's adorable. So I don't know. It's all about where you're standing in your vantage point for fandom, kind of all about your viewpoint from where you learned all about it. And I could not be more grateful than to have these two gentlemen here along for the ride. I am so lucky that it's my husband and my bro, and that is the best thing in the world. So Kevo, TK, do you guys have any final thoughts on this crazy green tinted episode that we have going on?
No, I think I got all my thoughts out. Very excited to see where AVA goes. Very excited to actually read the 0 Hour 30th Anniversary. And, gonna keep reading all these books, and we'll do another catch up soon.
All right. Well, Kevo, until the, I almost said until then, but until the next time, where can everybody find you online?
Well, I only want to say first, I love the AVA logo. That's very cool.
Yes.
I love when they make stuff like that look good. Yeah, loving the alien stuff that we're covering. Everyone definitely check out our Alien Romulus review over on our YouTube channel, along with a whole 8-hour video with a lot of our previous Alien coverage. And we're looking forward to covering more of it in the future. So I'm excited for that. And in the meantime, you can find me on the socials at KevoReally. That's KevoReally. Boys, take it away.
TK, I could not do this without you. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
TK Elemental. Where can everybody find you?
Nico Action, NICOACTION. And if you want to check out the music in the background, that's Nico Action Music, NICOACTION MUSIC. And until next time, 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. That's for us. 3 things for you, though. Number 1, stay safe. Number 2, be brave. Number 3, evolve daily. We could not be bigger fans of yours. Thank you for being fans of ours. And until next time, we'll see you.